This is The Extensionists, Conversations with Great Thinkers in Agriculture. I'm Tobin Dick.
And I'm Jay Wetter. Hey, Tobin.
Hey, Jay.
Did you want
I
to
forgot your
say
name there for a second.
Did you want to say hey this time? Because I know sometimes you wish that I wouldn't say hey first all the time.
Thank you for hearing me, Jay. I'm good. I'm good.
Well, maybe next time.
Maybe next time. Please.
Are you? I'm the treasurer of the Manitoba Farm Writers and Broadcasters Association. You haven't paid your 2026 dues yet, and while
This is a great time to bring it up.
Well, I'm bringing it up because our next guest is a real kingpin in farm writers.
I think you're bringing it up so that Burr Forest Group's project manager will hear it and make sure that it's an Asana task for me to complete.
And while you're paying for your
it's
membership,
something Ashley would really appreciate. Actually, go ahead.
While you're paying for your membership, you're also paying for Abby.
I mean, and if I'm paying for Abby's, then I should be paying for
Well, you could pay for Ashley, except Ashley already paid for hers.
That's true.
Yeah. So
I mean, I guess Michelle McMullen could do the Alberta Farm Writers.
But I'm on the Manitoba one, so I don't.
You don't really care about.
No.
Gotcha. Good point.
Anyway, Owen Roberts, who is going to be our guest today.
Mm-hmm.
I first met him probably very early in my career when I used to go to farm writers events because he was involved with Ontario and Canada and international. He's been. I mean, we're not going to talk about farm writers all the time on this call, but Owen is. He's been a big part of farm writers in Canada and internationally for a long, long time.
Yeah,
You've met him a number of times.
I have, for sure. I'm trying to think the first time I met him. It's going back a number of years, but certainly remember him from the farm writers events and playing with bass or guitar.
The GMO. He's lead guitar and singer now with GMO, but he was a bass player.
Yeah. Was he? Okay.
Well, no, but this is what when he was in university, he thought he'd just be a bass player in some band.
Oh yeah.
And then this job fell in his lap, and
I did it. So there's for people who can't see, there's a guitar just off screen. I actually thought about should we have the guitar sitting here between us on the couch?
I think it should be
like cool dudes.
Yeah,
like what cool dudes would do.
Oh man, I think just the fact that we're having that conversation would
really puts us in the mix.
Right in the cool dude mix. Yeah.
Really sells it. Wow, those guys are really cool.
Well, should we set that up then? You should do it.
Let's do it.
Okay. Well, we're gonna get on with the conversation with Owen, and before Owen shows up, which will be in a minute, you're gonna get out your guitar and put it between us.
Yeah. Maybe I have enough time to also pay my dues.
Do you like what you're hearing and want to support the Extensionists? If you are an agriculture company or association looking for a powerful way to get your message in front of Canadian farmers, then partner with us. Our listeners are farmers from coast to coast.
When you advertise with us, your brand isn't just another commercial break. It becomes part of our story. Ads on the Extensionists are personal and trusted. Our listeners value what they hear on the podcast.
Whether you're looking for a 60-second ad somewhere throughout the podcast, or even an exclusive episode sponsorship, we have options that will work for you.
So if you're ready to get your message out there and connect with farmers across Canada, let's talk. Visit theextensionists.com for more information. So we're hoping you notice the guitar here. So
Let's that's the elephant in the room.
That's right. Abby told us not to. I said I'm going to put my guitar up here, and Abby's like, as your producer, I'm going to vote no. You shouldn't put it on. You shouldn't put it on the couch. But
that's a pretty slick looking guitar. You sure you want people to know that you're that accomplished a guitar player? You might, this whole extension thing might just go by the wayside, and you're going to be on the road with that thing.
He says, dripping with sarcasm.
Well, I've never heard you play yet, so I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt.
That's true. You can't see the dust on it, so that's also good.
All right, we will get into music shortly, but I just have to do a quick intro. So our guest today is Owen Roberts, and so I'm kind of surprised by this title, Owen, but you've had a lot of jobs in your life, but this is the latest one. Senior Advisor of Strategic Communications for Grain Farmers of Ontario, which checks a lot of boxes for you because Senior Advisor in Communications sounds about perfect. You've had a big, long career in agriculture communications. But, which we will get to, but I think we need to go right back to the music because when you were in university, I think you thought you might be a bass player in a country band. You didn't think you were going to be have a 40-year career as an ag communicator. So why did you want to be a musician in a country band?
Because it paid really well.
Oh, yeah.
Is that right?
Well, in university, I mean, anything pays well, I suppose, in university, at least back then. But bars, country bands were playing in bars, and bars were hiring musicians, hiring bands 3 nights a week. Mm-hmm. So I'd be playing Thursday, Friday, and Saturday often, and I'd get I'd have $50 at the end of the weekend.
Yeah, right on. So it did pay well. Well,
I had a little bit more than that. But anyway, I was music. It was always kind of my avocation, and this was where I was raised down near Chatham in Ontario. Very, very active music scene, very active bar scene, and so there was all kinds of places to play, and that was how I got through university. Actually, was playing bass in bands. So it went from a country band to a disco band.
Oh, nice!
So you could understand why, I'm sure.
Were you dressed appropriately? I want to see the pictures of you in your white not unitard isn't the right word.
Are you thinking like a Bee Gees,
Bee Gees
kind of look? Yeah,
sequins on the
like
cuffs.
You guys are so out of touch. We had leisure suits.
Oh yes, I definitely want to see the photos now. Yes.
Oh yeah, I think they're all destroyed now. So.
Yeah. Was it adorned in any way with some sequins or stitching?
No, matching leisure suits and shirts. But we had 2 sets. Like we were classy. We had 2 sets of leisure suits. So.
And did you change it at the intermission, or did you came out with the second set with a full?
Oh no, that was for different gigs. You didn't want to show up for different bars with the same leisure suit on.
That's true. Yeah. We're high class here. We have various leisure suits.
So, amen.
My producer's telling me to pull the guitar away, so I'm going to pull the guitar away and not play it, but out of shot.
But we could use music as a tool for extension. I'm sure we'll segue back to that eventually.
Well, a lot of music stars do now, right? Like if you consider extension the dissemination of information and what they consider to be information, which is usually a political position, that's they're using extension now for musicians are using extension.
We just need to figure out how to do agriculture extension.
Well, we've talked, like Diljit from one of our guests talked about songwriting or comedy as extension. So we should put
Have you ever written a song about agriculture extension, Owen?
Yeah, I feel like you'd be great at that, Owen.
Yeah. Thanks very much. So my band, the GMOs, we were in a songwriting competition for, I think, the 25th anniversary of the Outdoor Farm Show. It might have been the 20th. And the Outdoor Farm Show in Ontario held a songwriting competition, and we came in second.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, I was pretty pleased about that.
Can you sing us a line? Do you remember any of it?
It was called Over 30 Million Served. And it was about the way farmers provide food for the country. At that time, that tells you how old it was, because that's when the population of Canada was 30 million.
Right.
And that's what it was all about. And yeah, we played that song a lot during that particular era.
I was going to ask if you played it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Did you record it? Can we find it on Spotify?
Yes, I think you can. It was also recorded, the GMOs recorded under our drummer's name, Len Kahn, and we recorded a album called Friends of Len. And it was a serious topic, you guys.
Sorry. I know Len, so that's why I'm laughing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And anyway, if you ever see it's on Spotify, and it's not all GMOs material, but there are certainly some GMOs CDs out there, and therefore some music electronically available.
Okay, right on. Okay, we will be looking for that for sure. Mitchell's Bay. I had to look up where that was because I'd never heard of it before.
Why are you bringing up Mitchell's Bay?
Because that's where Owen is from.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me about. It's tiny. Yeah, but you're not far from Windsor, which is where you ended up going to university, which is kind of like me. I went to Brandon University, which was basically the university in my own backyard, which is sort of what Windsor was like for you. Eh? So, but tell me about Mitchell's Bay being so small.
Yeah, well, Mitchell's Bay is really it's one of those communities, small rural communities in Kent County, which is an agricultural hotspot, as you probably know, in Ontario, in southwestern Ontario. And my dad was a conservation officer, and my mother was a nurse, and so we weren't farmers, but there was farms all around us, and I worked on farms. Mostly crop farms, mostly hoeing beans and hoeing sugar beets at the time, and just kind of doing general farm labor in my before I got this job in the country band, and so Mitchell's Bay was a real it's a hot spot. John Wayne and Ted Nugent and all kinds of people used to come up there hunting and fishing.
Oh yeah,
because it's a real hot spot for outdoors people. So my dad was very active there as a conservation officer.
Oh yeah, wouldn't it be great if he gave John Wayne a ticket
or
yeah.
Ted Nugent at his Nuge bow? Yeah.
Yeah, no, he kind of stayed away from those guys, I think. But
smart.
But anyway, it's such a great mix there of agriculture and recreation, being right on Lake St. Clair. Mitchell's Bay is on Lake St. Clair, and Lake St. Clair and Lake Erie, all that area in there is just such a great area for the soil is fantastic, and the weather's nice, and the water's great. It was a great place to grow up. Then I went to high school in Wallaceburg, actually. I don't know if you know where Wallaceburg is, but anyway, it's about 10 miles away. About 10 miles away, kilometers, 13 kilometers away.
And so the closest, I've never been to Kent, Essex, for all the amazing agriculture going on down there, including all the greenhouses. The closest I've been is Peter Gredig's farm at St. Thomas area.
Okay.
And, so Peter and I used to work
lucky
together.
you. The Canadian Farm Raiders, our Canadian Farm Raiders Federation, is having its annual meeting this year in London.
Yes.
Now that's still about a couple of hours away from Mitchell's Bay, but it's the perimeters of Kent County would be not too far away from London, maybe half hour or so. So there's your big chance to visit.
My chance, right?
And guess who's playing that night at the closing?
Ted Nugent.
Friends of Len.
You didn't let me finish. I stammered on that.
We got so excited.
I think I can guess who is playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the GMOs are playing for the closing night of the conference. So there you go. There's all kinds of reasons besides the great extension that's going to be happening at the Farm Raiders Conference. There's all kinds of reasons to come there.
So who's in the GMOs right now? Who's the current?
So the GMOs. So Len and I have been in the GMOs since kind of day one. This is our 26th anniversary, by the way, 26-year anniversary. One of my former students, Joey Soblish, is our bass player, and we have a harmonica player, keyboard player. His name is Matt Gans. Some people in agriculture may know him. He's been in ag chemical sales for a long time, and that's our current lineup.
I didn't know Len still played. Yeah, that's awesome.
Len still plays, and we think it's so cool. And actually, Joey works for Len now, and we think it's so cool that one of our Joey used to be at our roadie. We needed a guy with a strong back, and Joey was the guy because he was one of my students at the time, and so he became our roadie. And then it turns out he's also a fantastic musician. So he is he's been a GMO now for probably over 10 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So Owen, I've known you for 20 some years, maybe since 26 years. Maybe I saw your first ever concert, but because you've been playing.
Oh, was that you there? Yeah, there was someone there. Yeah, maybe it was you.
I was the guy dancing by himself, two-stepping by himself, right 2 feet in front of the stage, and I stumbled a couple of times, but
I recognize you.
Enjoyed it. No, but you've been playing at Farm Writers events for a lot of years, and so I would see you almost on an annual basis at those events. Yeah.
Well, the really neat thing about it, there's something about musicians and journalism and maybe extension that there are so many good musicians in journalism capacities across Canada. And the whole idea about playing at Farm Writers events was we mostly, I mean, people still call us the GMOs, but we weren't. It was me and maybe one other GMO, but we would always often put together a band from various musicians in the different provinces.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty neat experience. You know, there's about 40, 50, 60 songs that every band knows and every musician knows. So you can come together and agree on a key and away you go. And you can pretty well put together a night of music.
Did you grow up with music? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, I did. I'm from that Beatles era, as you can maybe tell.
Yeah.
I'm from that era, and I was bitten like everybody else, and kind of started out playing. But I had a good friend in high school who really inspired me. He was a keyboard player, and he said, I guess we were in grade 7. He said, you know, all the cool people are in a band, so we have to get a band together. And I said, well, I really can't play anything. He says, we'll find you something to play. So I started out playing bass guitar because it only had 4 strings instead of 6.
Yeah.
And stuck with it. And that's kind of where it began for me.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, we want to go to communications, and I think there's an easy segue from music. I mean, and the question is, like, you're playing with GMOs. You are coordinating people from different provinces, musicians. You're in front of an audience. You're engaging an audience. I'm guessing that the two aren't totally mutually exclusive, right? Like they have you found kind of a connection between that performance and music and communications and extension?
Yeah, there's nothing for a musician. There's nothing like playing in a band, because there's all kinds of nonverbal communication cues that go on in a band, and there's that. I'll give a nod to my friend Rob Hannum, who was also a GMO for a while. There's that synthesis of of activity that goes on, and like I said, so much of it is unspoken, but there's a kind of a magic, and I know that's a hackneyed term, but there really is. When you're playing with other musicians, everybody's doing their thing, and yet it all comes together in a song, and it's really something that. You know, I when I lived out in Western Canada, I played as a single for a lot of years. And that's very gratifying, too, because you get a very close relationship with the audience. And that's a real communication initiative there, speaking to people in a bar who are in there listening to you pretty closely about what you're playing. So, yeah, there's definitely a communication connection there. I think the connection... And I don't know if it's really an extension connection, but it's certainly a communication connection between ag journalists across Canada and ag communicators. You know, Canada has one of the strongest ag journalism and communication networks of any country.
Is that true? Yeah.
It is true, and it's one that people in some other countries have kind of emulated as far as our conference goes, like the way we set up the annual conference. But it's also one that really requires a lot of effort to maintain, and people obviously think it's worthwhile when you look at the size of our country compared to a lot of other countries that are part of the International Federation of Ag Journalists, of which Canada is a member. You know, now it's a lot easier with social media and electronic communications and such. But back in the day, when the whole federation and the whole Canadian Federation was founded, which is what 70-ish years ago, it wasn't that easy, and it really took determination. but people obviously thought it was worthwhile to launch and to maintain.
So you referenced international, or Canada being an example to the international, world of agriculture communications. And I know you've been involved with Canadian farm writers, but also heavily involved in international now forum for agricultural journalists. So what the international experience, and maybe to build on your comment about Canada, like what is the key communication lesson you've learned from the international experience when it comes to communicating agriculture ideas?
I think maintaining activity is a key, and this whole idea of a federation of agricultural journalists who can learn from each other, share ideas, have a connection, because given the particular country, one reason I joined the farm writers and onto the International Federation was because Canada is such a export-intensive country. And I figured my stories will really benefit if I have sources in a country that we're exporting to, where we want to export to, and I can say, here's what's coming down the pipe. Who can I talk to in your country who will be an industry that might be processing some of the commodities that are being shipped from Canada, or vice versa. If you're shipping something to us, country X, tell us about your production practices. Tell us about your export initiatives. Tell us something that readers, listeners, and viewers would benefit from your country, which may be a given to them, but would be news to us. And so I've always thought that was an important reason why journalists in an exporting or an importing country, I guess we're both, should be connected globally.
You spent some time in the States, recently, and you have international experience anyway. What does that extension landscape look like, kind of from a global to a Canadian perspective? Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, I would say it's different in the U.S. than pretty well anywhere. And the U.S. was fortunate way back when to have a vision for how extension should come out of universities, should be at a high level, and this was a result of creating what were called land grant universities. And land grant universities, there's a dozen or so of them in the U.S., maybe a little bit more. But anyway, they have a certain mandate to provide agricultural education, communications, leadership in their particular state. And so extension evolved from this and is very much entrenched at universities, at certain universities, land grant universities in the U.S. and not an extension very broadly, extension involving rural communities, food, and regular commodities as well, regular as in traditional commodities, I guess. But these universities have departments of extension, and when I was at the University of Illinois, my office was in the extension unit of that university.
Were there things that they were doing extension wise that you found different or recognized as particularly effective? Like what did you learn in that Illinois experience that we should be using more of?
Well, I learned that I guess it was reinforced that small group communication is still really where it's at. The Illinois Extension folks spend a lot of time connecting with their communities, not necessarily on one-on-one basis, but they do all kinds of workshops, and they'll be in the communities that they're responsible for, and they've got it very well segmented, the communities they're responsible for, and go in there with a list of topics that they plan throughout the year, but very well orchestrated, and a lot of communication to people they consider their stakeholders, which are not just farmers, but also rural people, but also urban people. Illinois has a lot of, just like Canada, has a big rural population that is in small towns as well, and they'll make a concerted effort. They, as in the extension departments, will make a concerted effort to be into those small towns, or be part of those small towns, be active in the media in those towns, to make sure that the residents in that area, in those areas, know that there are events that it would be helpful if they came out to.
So you said that they planned in advance kind of what they wanted to talk about for the year. So what was that like as a sort of step one for extension for the year? What was that planning session like? Do you remember?
I honestly didn't take part in any of them. I saw the outcomes of them.
Yeah, okay.
And the outcomes would be, they would take the pulse of the community. What are you interested in, or what are the priorities? But they would also be forecasting, given their own knowledge about what's hot, what is topical, what people should know about, as well as what they want to know about, and put together workshops like those. They would also do. I'm just mentioning workshops because it's one element of what they do. But they would also do, kind of the traditional newsletters and media outreach that we know Extension to be a foundation of.
But I like the that you mentioned of the small groups and getting out into the countryside, because I think we look at social media and even like print media and radio. They're somewhat distant and maybe less effective. I mean, it's not practical for an extension person to talk with every farmer, but these small group community events, I think we forget how effective those are. Do you feel like we've gone away from that and we need to get back to it?
Well, I look at the popularity of events, and it seems like events, when social media, COVID days, events kind of had it almost seemed like events had their day. But I look at something like and I'll mention this because I am part of Grain Farmers of Ontario now, the March Classic. And that's very much an extension event that the Grain Farmers of Ontario puts on annually, and it had near record attendance this year in Niagara Falls. People like to get together.
They do. I agree with you.
And of course, it depends on your location and the quality of your program. But if you have a good program and you're in the right spot, people seem to come together. They're looking for quality, right? Yeah. And they're looking for economy and such. But if you offer that up, I agree with you. There's value in coming together. That is one thing that AI cannot do.
Yeah. That's right.
AI cannot come together, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we can still do as humans, and communicate in a very traditional way, I guess, which is what we're doing now.
Yeah.
But this is also like, let's not kick dirt on, and I know you're not doing that, but let's not kick dirt on electronic communications, because we couldn't do this. We couldn't be talking about extension if we didn't have this forum here right now, or we could, but in a different way. So, I mean, this to me is a wonderful time to be involved in communications, both electronic and traditional, because there's just so many avenues that are open, and there's so many opportunities to get messages into the hands of people who can use them, and to get feedback from those folks.
Yeah. So that university system that you were talking about, like the land grant universities and their extension initiatives, activities, do you think that's something we could do more of here? Are we set up for that?
I think it would take a commitment, but I do think there's an opportunity. I think and one of those opportunities that I found when I worked at the University of Guelph for 33 years was to look outside traditional ways of doing things, but not, maybe not radically different. One of the things we did was involve students in extension. We would be teaching students how to communicate like journalists would communicate with stories and such. It was mostly stories then that we were writing. And then through partnerships with the media, we would have those stories printed or read or broadcast or something along those lines. This, to me, was an example of bringing new people in a new kind of way, but also using existing or partnering with existing media to help extend information from, and it's a classic case. What does a university do? Well, it extends information from a source, like a researcher, to a user, which could be the public, could be practitioners, it could be farmers, of course. But that's a natural extension chain is from a knowledge source. You probably talk about this all the time in your podcast, in your session here. That classic channel of communication, which is really where extension fits in. That's what a university does. So I think about Illinois doing that. I think about the University of Guelph doing that, and I'll just talk about I could talk about Alberta government too, from the old days, my old days there, but also Ontario now that I'm familiar with. There are really, really talented communication folks who are in positions that might not be called extension or communication, but I think about people like weed specialist and the cereal specialist who were coincidentally ag communication students back in the day. They're not actually called communication. They have a communication role,
Right.
but they're not professional communicators. They're specialists and they're doing extension, but they're not actually called extensionists either, at least not job title wise. So is there opportunity? Yeah, there's all kinds of opportunity, and it's going on now. It's going on because there's a lot of ag communication going on, a lot of extension going on. Is it in a neat bucket? No. Is it but there's a way to, I think, kind of capture that modern bucket of extension and help it flourish. What kind of skills do those folks need? They need communication skills.
Yeah.
And are we teaching those? Is there some opportunity either in higher education or outside using extension, current extension opportunities to teach communication?
What do you think are the most important communication skills, Owen?
Spelling. I think it's an important one for credibility.
Not relying on autocorrect, because you never know what you're going to end up with.
Well, right, and in defense of those who struggle with spelling, has there ever been anyone to teach them?
Yeah.
It's and I'm not trying to sound like a fundamentalist or anything like that, but there are some foundational skills that are required. I still think writing is important because, as you know, if you're a broadcaster and you have to put together a script, you are likely going to have to write it. So it's not confined. Writing skills aren't confined to traditional print. It's certainly important there. But if you're writing a blog that you want people to read, or if you're writing an email you want people to read, you have to have some writing skills. So I'm a fan of those. Maybe that's to be expected, but I still think it's extremely relevant to have writing skills and speaking skills, particularly with the way communications has evolved. I mean, look at what you folks are doing now. Couldn't have been done in the past because there wasn't the ways and the means. But now there has to be. Hopefully your guests have speaking skills as well as writing skills to be able to write down their thoughts beforehand and talk to you about them. So I think and video skills. We did can I talk about a some of the research that we did
Yeah, that'd be
about
great.
what skills are really
Please.
desired.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Right.
great.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Illinois, we were working on something called a global certificate in agricultural communications. We had also talked about that at Guelph years ago, but it was, a little bit hard it wasn't as easy to deliver as it is now. So we thought, okay, in our due diligence, we better ask folks what they would like to see in some type of a certificate. And this would be a certificate, much like you would get if you attended some type of a workshop for a period of time and you picked up a skill. So so we asked these folks, and so the International Federation has more than 60 member countries now, and more than 6,000 members. It's a very significant organization. It's the only one in the world dedicated solely to agricultural journalism and communications. So if you're asking members of the International Federation what they think ag communicators should be talking about, you're asking the right group. And we asked these folks, what skills, what would you like to see? What would be the top 3 or 4 things you'd like to see in a agricultural communications certificate that could be delivered online, asynchronously, meaning there wouldn't be a live instructor talking to you, but there would be instructors who would be recorded, and their lessons or teachings or whatever would be there, and you would respond to them. You would write some type of test that would show that you had earned this certificate. The things they came up with were multimedia presentations, so multimedia learning, multimedia reporting. So this would include, and this is why I thought of it, because we're talking about all these new opportunities there are. It would include not only being able to write, but also being able to do a podcast, perhaps take some video, take something for broadcast, take photos, all part of the whole multimedia experience for a journalist. They also wanted data journalism training.
Interesting.
So being able to write stories, not particularly led by a human, but led by the data that the humans had created. Maybe now, wouldn't be solely humans that had created it, but using that as a foundation for a story, and then going out and getting sources who could validate or expand on it. And then the third one was leadership. And I thought that was great, that journalists and ag communicators from around the world thought leadership skills were among the most important skills they should have. And,
and when they say leadership, what do you think they're after?
Well, these would be people who would be involved in their guilds, just like the Canadian Farm Writers Federation is. If we were in Europe, we'd be called a guild rather than a federation. That would be what our association or organization would be called. These are people who are actively involved in their associations, and so they want the leadership skills to be able to take a position of authority or leadership within those particular guilds. And how wonderful for the future of ag journalism that people are asking for, they recognize that they should have leadership skills and are actively seeking out opportunities to get them.
Yeah. So what do you think are the leadership skills? Or if you created this module for the global module, what were the leadership skills that you were trying to convey?
Well, it wasn't created yet by the time I left. It was in place, and they're actually developing it now. But I imagine what they will be including is, and this sounds archaic, but it's still very applicable. How to give a speech.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's
we kind of laugh at it like, oh yeah, that's for that's old school. That's something you see at the at farm shows or whatever. Students up there giving speeches. But that's very valid form of communication. Again, when you can reach so many more people now electronically, you have to know how to give a speech. In order to give a speech, you have to know how to speak. In order to write a speech, you have to know how to write. So those would be the type of things, when you start to kind of peel away the layers of the onion. What are the components of leadership? Well, you have to be able to speak to people. And then what are the elements of speaking to people? Eye contact and all that kind of good stuff that we've known for a long time, that we kind of thought, oh, that's old school. But it is not old school. It's very pertinent. So those would be among the leadership. But also, how do you motivate people to do things? That would be like motivation. There would be several lessons on motivating people, how to involve people as a leader, and what skills do leaders have? Like, here's one that you'll be interested in: listening skills.
Yeah.
Should journalists have listening skills?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Should leaders have listening skills to hear what people are saying that might be important to them? And then how do you respond to those as listening skills? How do you respond? Those would be the type of things that they would be getting towards. How to motivate a community, not just people within your area of interest, but how to motivate a community to receive messages that you might think are important, like the importance of agriculture to a community, importance of the agri-food sector to a country, influencing stakeholders in that way so they understand what it is that is important. And this is all extension, right?
Well, the leadership thing is really interesting. So you had multimedia, data management, leadership skills. I was at a leadership event recently, and they were talking about the 6 skills of a leader, and the number one was participation or participatory leadership, which is inviting everyone you're trying to lead into the conversation about what are our objectives and how do we get those objectives
like facilitation,
done.
almost.
Yeah, it wasn't just like you're going to do this, and that's in fact that can be effective in the short term apparently, but does not make a good, effective long-term leader. It's like sort of that team building exercise of having people participate. Wondered if that was something that, like, do you get into that kind of weeds? I don't know. You weren't there when you wrote the modules for this particular one, but.
Yeah, I have to be honest. I wasn't. There's a whole department of leadership at the University of Illinois, and those folks are expert in it. So this is what would happen for the development of this module: is that you would bring in experts in this area and have them deliver the lectures and receive the feedback from the participants about that area.
What is the?
It is interesting though what you say about the about this the participatory aspect of leadership. Yeah, you certainly do want to bring others in and have leadership through consensus. Usually, you're put forward as a leader because you've already done that. Like there are people who say, you should run for this, or you should be our leader in this because we all think da 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 da.
Yeah.
And you get elected because most people believe that you are going to reflect, positively their views or important views or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it's and that's something else that would be peeled back is how do you become a leader?
Yeah.
Are you a born leader? Or do you develop as a leader? It's like being a writer. Are you a born writer? A speaker? Are you a born speaker? Well, are you a born leader? Maybe you have some elements of that in your personality, but there's certainly some leadership skills to be learned
and practiced. Yeah, for
well,
sure.
I mean, that's an interesting point. I'd like to get your perspective on it, Owen. Like, Jay and I, we talk to people about presentation skills and all this kind of stuff in our workshop. But there's always a subtext to it where it's like you could have the worst slideshow possible if you're giving a presentation, an extension presentation, but you're a super charismatic person, and everyone's going to love your presentation, and they're going to associate this crappy slide deck with a great presentation because delivery was so awesome. So you teach, one teaches these elements, or you talk about these elements as divorced from each other, but really what I've had trouble teaching or articulating is like you really just got to sell it. You got to be almost just be a good, charismatic, interesting person. Like that's the course, right? But you find ways to talk around it and veil it and I mean you kind of you try to boil it down to its parts, but at the end of the day, there is still that element, that je ne sais quoi, that you either, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been to some presentations where there was no presentation. There was no visual presentation. Mm-hmm. The speaker spoke.
Yeah.
And at one, the speaker said, "You'll probably be surprised that I don't have a PowerPoint deck to go along with my presentation today." And everybody went, "Yeah, we were pretty surprised at that because it's such a given now."
Yeah.
So therefore, you also need, and this was part of this multimedia thing that the international people said. You have to have some visual, not just ability to take photos and such, but you have to be able to put together a good deck to be able to maybe explain yourself. But do you? It's a really good question because I mean, what are people doing when you're up there speaking? They're looking at the deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No,
they're not focused on you. And if you're trying to get a point across in because you've taken some type of speech lessons that tell you to pause, tell you then to carry on, to do some of those, not tricks, but techniques that speakers use to emphasize a point. There you are, you're busting your rump to get your point across, and everybody's looking at the PowerPoint that may say, hopefully not, but you've seen this too.
Sure.
The PowerPoint says exactly what you're saying.
You're just reading it. Yeah,
so why do you have a PowerPint that says what you're saying?
Yeah. Or why are you there?
Right.
One or the other. Pick a lane.
Hopefully that question doesn't come up, but it might.
I was listening to Nate Bargatze, who's a comedian, and I was just watching a Netflix special. But your point about pausing, he has surprisingly few words in an hour. But he's just
very funny though.
He's very funny, and he's just like long pauses, and while he's thinking, it seems like he's thinking. Obviously, he's rehearsed this thing, but it can be so effective, and I don't think we realize that we don't have to fill every second up with words.
Absolutely, and wouldn't that be a great training in a online certificate, a way to bring people in to help them understand that. The communication skill they're learning in giving a speech is universal. And in giving a speech, pausing and using different voice inflections and such, like a comedian does, can work. So I bands take a break, right? We're gonna have a little break now, so you can think about. Or you can order another drink. Or
you're right.
But not so there's a pause. In there.
Well, I have to think even just say Jay and I, and we do a podcast, and I've often thought do we get training on how to talk on a podcast, or I think I sometimes am guilty of assuming that I know, right? Or I've spoken in enough venues or to enough in front of enough audiences that I know how to give a speech. But do I? Would I benefit from a Toastmasters course? I probably would.
Yeah. I remember after our presentation in Brandon, afterwards, Des Daniels projected really well, but you and I didn't. And I think we get used to having these kind of conversations,
right?
But we're not used to talking in front of a big audience.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. We probably could benefit from skills on public speaking and projection. Owen, have you ever had any public speaking training on how to project?
Yes, so I've looked online a little bit because projecting when you sing, which is what I do in the GMOs, is very similar to what you do if you're standing at a podium. And I've had the luxury of having students be be the recipient of some of the things I've said over the last 40 years. And I've learned, that whole pausing technique, but also looking at people. We think about eye contact and some of the other, the gesturing that we're trying not to do that now, but the gesturing that comes along with addressing a crowd. Really important. Would we all benefit from a Toastmasters course? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. When I would have in my communications courses that I've taught, I would almost always have someone come in to speak about speaking. It's not, but this is also a luxury of having a small class. When you have like 100 students in a class, really difficult. And that's where an institution really has to stand up and say, okay, we're going to, because this is not the way universities are going, unfortunately, for funding purposes and everything else, going towards larger classes. It really, you have to admire an institution that will support a small program right now, and like an ag communication program. We don't have an ag communication program per se in Canada at a university, at a college. There are some that are trying to put together, making very noble efforts, and I hope we will in maybe a couple of years. But it does take a commitment by the institution to say, we think this is important because we've heard from the ag community that this is important to them. Because where will the next where's the next Tobin, where's the next Jay going to come from? Mm-hmm. Through the ranks. That's how you learned your speaking skills and your communication skills to a significant degree.
4-H public speaking. That's
Pardon me?
4-H public speaking.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Very important. So, is there a way to coordinate all that?
Yeah.
Probably. So, Owen, we talked about your University of Illinois brief stint there. Well, not a few years. You're now Grain Farmers Ontario, but we haven't really dug into the 33 or whatever years it was you're teaching at the University of Guelph. So, but I think I want to. This all connects because you talked about the value of actual in-person presentations, and how to deliver a speech. And how to get a message across to people. So in all of your years of teaching, like those classes where you thought, yes, that worked. Like I really got through to my students today. Can you remember what worked? Like what was it? What made an effective class presentation or class discussion where you felt like, yes, this is sinking in?
I would say most broadly, it was classes in which the students got to apply what they learned. And this is one of these experiential education situations where, okay, I'm going to talk, I'm going to show you some of the material I've written. I'm going to talk to you about some of the addresses I've given. Your turn. And that's when people really learn. If you think about your younger days back in the newsroom or wherever, where you had to do your first stories, those were real learning. To me, that was a real learning experience. The first plowing match. My first story was a plowing match, and whoa, it was to see your byline on a plowing match. Oh, yeah. Like to me, it gives you, what a byline gives you. It gives you that sense of pride that really sticks with you and is really infectious, I think. So that's what I thought would be really good for my students, and I believe that was the case. I tried to give them opportunities to get bylines in commercial publications. In Ontario, we worked with major, I would say most of the farm media to have bylined stories in from, almost always about research at the University of Guelph in the publications. Same in Illinois. I had a connection with Farm Progress chain there, and they ran some of the students' stories that were not as much research-based from the university, but research-based from their home farms. And those were very effective and got all kinds of pickups. So,
like telling stories, like personal experiences kind of stories?
Yeah,
Was the
that's
most
right.
effective?
Like
Yeah.
on our farm we've cover cropped for the last 15 years, and here are the results that we're seeing now. That type of thing, or here's how we prevented erosion, or here's how we maximized our yields. That type of thing.
You started as an ag journalist in Alberta. You mentioned that earlier in the conversation, but we didn't dig into it. And it was with Alberta Report, which I think was the Byfields. And if I recall them, they were very opinionated. But so what did you learn from that experience about writing? Were there takeaway tips from that early experience that you've kept all of these years because they worked so well?
Yeah, absolutely. The Byfields were very supportive of writers who could identify an audience and write to that audience. So there would be people from all stripes, all political stripes in the newsroom, but it didn't matter as long as you were able to write for Albertans what mattered to Albertans and have an Alberta angle on it. And some people were critical that it was too far or whatever, but writing for your audience was a key thing that I learned from the Byfields. I also learned from them how important they thought agriculture was. It was one of the I had, so for people who may not remember, Alberta Report was a weekly news magazine. Based in Edmonton, it covered the entire province, and pretty well like no other publication, because it was Alberta at the time was so one party oriented that you pretty well knew who your audience was, and you could write to that audience in ways that would help them put things in perspective, provincially, nationally. And the Byfields understood how important agriculture was to Alberta. And within Alberta Report, there were sections, just like Time magazine, for the arts, for entertainment, et cetera, But my section was called The Land, and the land was their way of saying agriculture. And I had multiple, I was there for 3 years. I was in Northern Alberta for 4 years before that. And I had multiple cover stories that were agriculture, and they didn't say agriculture is for just for rural audiences or just for farmers. They said agriculture is for everybody, and it's important for our economy. And they were way ahead on this, way ahead. So, and they gave me all kinds of opportunities to write stories that. And a lot of them came to me. A lot of these stories came to me because people in agriculture knew that the importance and the influence of Alberta Report. So writing for an audience, I'd say, was the key thing. Right. What does your audience not want to hear? Yes, to some extent want to hear, but need to hear. And that's the beauty of a weekly news magazine. You have a little bit of time, not a lot, because you have a cycle, but you'll have some time to put things in perspective. And so this is a while ago, even before I came to Guelph. So this is like going back to 40 years ago. Yeah. One of the things about electronic communication now is that even though it's very fast, we do again have the opportunity to put things in perspective because we're not as limited by a physical size of a publication. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of come around in that way, and I think I've read a little bit of research on this, but I've read that it's very popular. The publications or whatever the tool may be, that long form writing has become pretty popular for people who want to learn more about a topic. Mm-hmm. Short stuff, tweets, etc., will have their place to get people interested, and then having somewhere where you can read it, really sink your teeth into a feature, which is very popular, which may also lead to more journalistic training. Because how do you write a feature that holds together, that has transition, that isn't just a bunch of quotes? it's a talent, and that's really what I'm looking forward to, is whatever ag communication, education inevitability comes along, and I do think it's inevitable, that it's going to be focused on training people for modern realities, but some of which have very strong foundations in. I've always thought ag communications has a strong foundation in journalism, and I think that's where it can go again.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think there's like the case for talking about ag comms and really anchoring it on writing. I think is, I mean, you're with the right audience here, of course. But I mean, I've always thought, even just personally, like the clearer I write is the clearer I think, and so like there is a really strong case for writing to be foundational to effective communications. I'm with you on that one.
Can I ask you guys a question?
You can.
When you write a story, and I'm thinking about a long feature here because they're becoming popular again, do you put together an outline beforehand? Like a formal outline?
Not really a formal outline, but I do want to think about what I want to say. So I know what I want to say, and I kind of have an idea what the thread is going to be. But what do you do, an outline?
No,
Tobin?
no. It's always been one of those things that I wish I could, or I wish I would, because I feel like it's one of those things that I should do, like, but I don't. It'll go. My typical response, or my typical approach, I haven't done it in a long time, would be to write it out, and it would be kind of as a first draft all over the place. But then I used to do this. I would print it, or and then physically move graphs around, until it was in a place where I'm like, oh, this has good flow. This makes sense, and then that's how I would.
I took literary journalism, this 2-week residency at Banff a number of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. And I had time that I've never had time to write. It was 2 weeks to work on one article. And this is literary journalism, like this long format you're talking about. And they said, so plot it out, A to B to C to D to E, and E is your conclusion. And then take D and put it at the front. So I just thought that was kind of, so you start kind of near the end, and then you work back and just say, okay, this is how we got here, and then you have your conclusion. But I've never done that since.
Well, you see, and that's a great perspective, and that's what I think students should be exposed to. Young writers to be able to get, or budding writers to be able to get this kind of feedback. Like, you don't need to do an outline. I don't do them. I worked beside an editor who did, and he swore by them. But I'm like you. I've got it in my head, and I know where I want this to go. My biggest challenge is to find the anecdote at the start of the story.
Yes, that's so important, isn't it? Oh yeah, that's critical. Yeah. Are you still writing? Or what? Do you have time to write, or what's?
Yeah. I just I finished it. It was actually a sponsored series with the Toronto Star in November, I guess, about regenerative agriculture.
Oh yeah, I think I saw that. That's right. Yeah.
Awesome. So that was my biggest thing. I do some, and I still have a column. This is going on 30 years now with The Grower. Yeah. The Grower is on the fruit and vegetable publication, and the editor there, Karen Davidson, is the one who got me into the Canadian Farm Writers Federation.
Amazing.
Decades
so
ago.
You two are still, that's amazing.
We're still, still focused on ag communication, which is, and I don't think it's kind of unusual that amount of time, but I mean, you look at our connection. Yeah. Ag communicators and ag journalists just have a great connection in Canada. For sure.
But my first boss was John Morris, and I still see John on a fairly regular basis. Yeah.
He's iconic. He set the stage. Ironically, he was the spokesperson for the wheat pool when I was a reporter at Alberta Report, And of course, Alberta Report used to rip the wheat pool, just go at it, go at their throats. And he was the most patient guy with me. He would just explain things, and he wouldn't blow a fuse. Of course, I'm voracious, trying to get, I got to get the wheat pool, and I didn't have to, but that's what people wanted.
Sure.
So,
Give them what they need.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have a lot of respect for him.
So just the recent regenerative agriculture articles you wrote for the Star. Can you think of one of your opening anecdotes, given how important they are? Can you remember? I'm putting you on the spot here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. Well, almost. So I did 5 stories, and almost every one of them started with a farmer's experience about what he or she used to do and what he or she does now. Yeah. Conflict of any type is such a foundational part of journalism, and it really makes the world go around. Same with research. Here's the way it was, but we're doing this now, or we want to do this now to change things, and those were really that was really the approach I took, and I find it helps. That helps a lot with writing a story as well, because if you can explain briefly the problem, then focus on the solution. It's honest with the reader or the listener or the viewer to admit that here's a situation that we're trying to fix, and then go on to explain the potential solution or the solution or the way it is now. That's a good. I think that's a good approach.
I think that's
story.
a good approach also to a live, like to a speech or a presentation, is just begin with some sort of anecdote. Get the audience, warm up the audience with a real kind of experience.
For sure.
Yes. A people experience, because I find people still like to read about people. And I mean, when you think about what we've talked about today, these are people talking, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a last thought?
Well, we would, Owen, you've taught a lot of people. You've encountered a lot of people in ag comms. You're still connected to a lot of people. Just definitely want to give you the opportunity in this podcast. We're coming to a close here, but like to kind of pass on some words to like the new generation of people in ag extension and ag comms, given your breadth of experience.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the challenge they may have. They probably are having now in finding opportunities. I think a big opportunity is both inside. I think inside agriculture there are opportunities. I think outside agriculture there are significant opportunities to explain to non-agricultural audiences what is going on in farming. There's great science stories, there's great environmental sustainability stories that I believe, and this was my experience with the Star, non-agricultural people really want to hear. And I think we've thought this through the years. When I first started working at Guelph and I was writing, I went there on a 1-year contract to see if there was any interest in the public media, in running ag research stories. So I mean, I applied some good journalism techniques to that, like the one we just talked about. Trying to find the problem, then finding the solution. And that, to me, given the problems that we're looking at right now, and young journalists, if they're looking to write stories, what is the problem that the story you want to write can help address? It doesn't have to be a solution, but it can be a small step maybe in the towards the answer. I think people are looking for some answers to some of the questions that are out there right now, and I would encourage young journalists to not lose heart, to look for professional development opportunities like those that exist with the Canadian Farm Writers Federation and with each of the associations like the Manitoba Farm Writers and Broadcasters. I know there are professional development opportunities that come up, and maybe more so now that there isn't really any formal ag communication training going on, at least not in not broadly. Maybe that's what the individual associations should be looking at, is offering these kinds of opportunities, more professional development opportunities, specifically for young journalists or for those who are entering the profession maybe for the first time. It could also be for people who are already involved in extension but haven't had the skills before, haven't had access to the skills that are needed for effective communications.
Right on.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Owen. It's been great to see you again, and maybe see you in London in September. Who knows? But
Yeah.
Well, I hope you're going to step on stage with us there, Tobin, with your rock star guitar.
Oh,
better get practicing.
yeah, I'm gonna wipe off the dust and learn how to play. There we go.
Jay, you'd be a good front man. I mean,
I can
you
play
always,
the cowbell.
Well, no, you crack people up when you get up there and you start speaking. You always have a joke, and there's another good public speaking technique.
Yeah.
Maybe you do it on purpose, or maybe you just. I know you're kind of that guy.
And the
too.
punchline. Yeah.
You got a sense of humor, and
Such a
there, so
jokester.
you can introduce the band, Jay,
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Great.
there we go. I like it.
and then get off the stage.
And then get the hell off the stage.
Right on. Thanks
Oh,
again.
I love
Owen.
it. Yeah. Thanks, Owen.
It's great to catch
It's great
up.
talking to you guys. Thanks
Yeah.
very much for the opportunity.
Oh,
Our
anytime.
pleasure.
Yeah,
Hey
okay.
there, listeners. If you're enjoying the conversations here on The Extensionists, you will probably love to get our newsletter.
Yeah, it's the best way to stay connected with us, with Jay and myself, yours truly.
Cool.
I'm excited about the newsletter, to be honest with you, because I think.
Why are you excited
Well,
about
so many of our guests have
Sorry. Why are you excited about
Yeah,
it?
say that differently, Jay. So many of our guests they say so many things of interest, right? And I feel like the newsletter will be a great way to share that with our listeners.
Like quick take homes,
Yeah.
summaries.
Yeah, absolutely.
One-liners.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think about each guest, we could probably write a whole bunch of articles from each of our guests, right? So to give our newsletter subscribers like summaries of, the key takeaways of these things, plus information on upcoming guests, all the listeners have to do is go to theextensionists.com and follow the prompts to sign up for the newsletter. I think it'll be great.
Oh, guitar.
I'm strumming the guitar.
I'm strumming. Slapping the bass.
Oh, there's a Nate Brigats. Okay, we can save this for the. I guess we are in outro land right now. Outro land.
I want to keep this, so we're rolling.
You. Oh, see, you got it wrong. See, it's been so long. Here we go. I know. So everybody, I'm playing "Come As You Are" by Nirvana, and Jay's got his eyes closed. And
Hasn't missed a note.
He's really into it. Hasn't missed a note, and my guitar is definitely in tune. So we should get the GMOs. We should commission them to do our intro song. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be. I also do want to look up that one song that they got second place.
Yeah.
for.
30 million people fed or through.
Something that'll get you there. As other friends of Len or the GMOs at that point. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, that's a great idea. I love that. For season 3, we'll have the GMOs do our theme song.
yeah, that's
We'll
great.
ask them.
That's great.
Yeah.
That was a good conversation.
I was, and I really liked it. At the end, we were just kind of getting warmed up because I really liked his tip about leading off an article or even a presentation with a story or an anecdote. And in this case, in our world, it's a farmer did something, changed their mind, and this was the result. And I love that style of intro. But like Owen said, it's about the people.
Yeah. I do like that. I do like that as well. That was, and I really liked his commitment to like writing as a fundamental skill and speaking and then listening, listening as well. I think.
And spelling. But so writing,
spelling, that's right.
Writing
That's right.
and speeches, writing and public speaking, core skills.
Are you a good speller?
No, not really. No.
Jamie, like my wife,
not a good
my
typer
wife's
either.
a very good speller.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You're not a good typer? Like, are you one hand? Yeah.
I'm not. No, I'm like this, but I'm also lots of the backspace.
Maybe don't do that. No, just kidding.
What, this?
Yeah, that's nice. That's a nice flow to it. I like. So, Nate, you brought up Nate Bargatze.
Yeah.
There's definitely a clip I want to show you of his.
Okay.
If I can find it. It's always a difficult one to find, and I think it's because like maybe I find it funnier than most people. Because if it was one that everybody found funny, there would be like ample.
Is
clips.
it the one where he's like talks about meeting the people from the future? And he
No.
has to save it.
So no, the Nate Bargatze clip I want to find is one where he's at a hotel, like a whatever Best Western or something, and he's getting pancakes. Like he's doing the whole pancake things where people make their own.
Yeah.
And it's all about somebody in front of him doing like using the syrup. And I don't want to give it away because I don't want, I mean, I'm not going to be able to land it as funny because Nate's all about the delivery, right?
Yes, yeah.
So there's no way I'd be able to do it. But it is just like, it is so funny. It is so funny him recounting this story of watching this person make pancakes at this like run-of-the-mill hotel and like a continental breakfast. So yeah, definitely want to do that.
Yeah.
Abby's told us to talk about the guest, but we can't. We're having trouble segueing. All Jay can think about is Nate Bargatze
and pancakes. Actually, I wanted to make pancakes. So I was at a hotel near the airport in Toronto just a few weeks ago, and I made the automatic pancake maker thing, which it seems like an elaborate tool to make some rather simple pancakes. But I wasn't sure if the button was working. Well, it turns out it was working, and I made 6 pancakes. They just kept coming out. Like, holy cow!
It's like a mini donut kind of a machine. Yeah.
Anyway, I ate all 6 pancakes, but I didn't really want to eat that many because I wanted to eat some eggs and bacon and fruit too.
No, you're just filling up with pancakes.
Anyway, well, that was a great conversation with Owen. I learned a ton, and he's always a good guy to talk to. And the music, I mean, you got your guitar out now for this outro, which was really fun, and listening to the Come As You Are from Nirvana.
Over and over again, and it's not even the whole song. It's just the first, like, it's the opening bars of the song. But no, like Owen's just kind of like he is kind of like a John Morris character, and that is just I think of Ag Communications, and I think of Owen's right up there for sure. Done some interesting things. I could only imagine like his experience, his time in the U.S. must have been. We probably could have filled a whole hour or two on just that.
With the extension program there at the U.S. university is quite different from Canada. Anyway, and we should at some point get an extension person from a U.S. university as a guest.
Yeah, I agree. It'd be interesting to learn more about that system.
Yeah. Anyway, this has been the Extensionists. I'm Jay Wetter,
and I'm Tobin Dick.
Till next time. This has been a Burr Forest Group production.
Jay, did you know that the podcast couldn't happen with the hard work of the people behind the scenes?
And I've got their names right here. They are Abby Wall, producer and editor, Ashley Robinson, researcher, and Michelle McMullen, marketer.